Hey, welcome to the TrueLife News Show. Today, guys, this is very upsetting what I have to tell you, but it is the truth, guys. And what we have found out today that Elon Musk is mad. He feels betrayed after giving $250 million to the Republican Party. And then now the Republicans are backtracking on all of his Doge findings, not codifying his cuts into law. He has stepped back and has publicly stated that he is not going to be supporting the Republican Party in the midterms. He's not going to be involved in any of the politics moving forward, guys. The Republicans are the dumbest party I have ever seen to do what they have done of not utilizing and just honoring what Elon Musk has been working so hard to do, which is to actually bring forth the fraud, waste, and abuse and actually codify it into law. They didn't do that. None of the Doge cuts are in the big beautiful bill. Nothing whatsoever. All the fraud, waste, and abuse is there, and Elon Musk has said he is done. He's stepping back. No more money, no more political scenes involving him. It's going to be the Republicans all on their own in the midterms, guys, and this is not good. So it gets even worse, guys. Take a seat, get some popcorn. We've got a crazy show for you today. Trump and Jim Jordan are having to flush out some deep staters and moles right now. Cabinet officials and deep staters have been found leaking evidence to other officials, overseas people, to the point now where every single week and almost every other day, we have evidence now that the Trump officials are actually using polygraph tests to go through and see who is lying, who is leaking internal documents, internal evidence, plans of the Trump agenda, and what's to move forward. Guys, this is a insane finding of breaking news today. But this just goes to show you that Elon Musk saw it all. He called it all out. He said that the NGOs, the money that was coming out of USAID was going to these NGOs overseas and then backpedaled back to Congress people, officials, and now the GOP, now the Congress won't go after him. And Elon Musk is upset. He's done with this, guys. I'm super upset because I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk. And also, too, I don't believe Trump would have won without Elon Musk. He campaigned for him big time, but now Elon Musk is upset and he said, I'm not dealing with any more politics moving forward. The midterms, no. He's saying, I'm not stepping in. No more of my money is going to be used. And this is a bad news for the Republican Party. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Because again, too, we're not just fighting the Democrats anymore. We're fighting judges. And thank God, Chief Justice John Roberts just issued a temporary administrative stay halting lower court orders that were requiring the Doge to comply with FOIA requests and related discovery. So to say it in layman's terms, there is left-wing activists out there that are judges that are trying to get into the internal documents of the Doge findings and trying to manipulate them of the actual source files to try to make sure that what we are seeing is that certain people don't get in trouble or get found out from all the Doge findings. And this is what is making Elon Musk so furious, is that he got in this to expose it all. They went after him. They went after his companies, Tesla, SpaceX. They went after his stock market. All these people, they went 100% towards Elon Musk, and the Republicans couldn't do a dang thing of just making sure that even half of the Doge findings of fraud, waste, and abuse were included in the big beautiful bill. Nothing was included. So he's upset. We've got moles that are being found out, guys. This is a big show. The cabinet officials that we now know, Comer has subpoenaed them. Multiple cabinet officials, we're going to show you in a moment, have been subpoenaed to testify before Congress because we now know that there is so much fraud, so much cover-up, and things have to be exposed, guys. Want to say thank you to everybody who is watching, to all of our subscribers, all of our viewers. Thank you so much for your support. Want to say thank you to everybody that is a member of the channel. And if you're not subscribed, guys, to our channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, letting us take care of you every day with the top news, guys. There's so much going on, and we want to make sure that you're fully informed. Want to say thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. And if you don't mind doing us a huge favor of hitting that thumbs up like button, guys, it really does help out so much. We've got a huge story. Elon Musk is pulled back from the Republican Party. I can't believe it, guys. It's making me upset just even talking about it. But he's literally said he's not going to give any more money to support the midterms and what we're going to have to deal with in 2 years. He said he's not going to support the Republicans, and the number one reason is they did not codify not one of his Doge findings of fraud, waste, and abuse in the big, beautiful bill. Trump and Jim Jordan are now doing weekly polygraph tests on all top officials within the federal government to find out, because there's people that are leaking evidence, leaking internal documents, and leaking Trump's agenda. Remember, Trump is playing chess while everybody's playing checkers. And now they have found out that there's a lot of leakers out there. So they're trying to clean this all out, guys. We got a big show today, but what you're about to hear next, guys, is these cabinet officials and what's going on. So much fraud. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Check this out.
Joe Biden was a vegetable for 4 years, probably more. And because of that, this movement of hate, this sick anti-Semitic movement was able to flourish in America, right here at home. While we were all told that white supremacy was the greatest threat to democracy. Remember this?
According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists.
And once the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas protests started, the presidents of the most elite universities in America refused to call these protests, and in some cases riots, what they were: domestic terrorism, anti-Semitism, hate, Jew hate born and being promoted right here in America. This would be a different situation if they were doing this, say, against trans people or black college students. Imagine the reaction from Democrats and the media. But because they're Jews, nobody cares. And what happened last night was bound to happen. The culmination of all of this insanity, endorsed by Democrats, that happened on Joe Biden's watch. And now 2 people, a beautiful young couple, are dead because of the way that Benjamin Netanyahu is waging a war 6,000 miles away. Think about that. Dave Portnoy tweeting last night. He founded Barstool Sports. He tweeted, "A domestic terrorist went hunting Jews last night in Washington, D.C., killing 2 Jews. The terrorist, Elias Rodriguez, yelled, 'Free Palestine,' as he got arrested. This type of tragedy is the natural progression of events when the morons running our colleges, far-left politicians, and hate merchants on social media continue to normalize and seemingly encourage anti-Semitism in this country."
Guys, and again, too, I'm bringing you everything. What you're seeing on the screen, all this stuff that's coming out, all the anti-Semitism, all the leaks, everything that's coming out of the Biden, the cabinet officials, everything that's happened overseas with foreign policy, Trump is trying to fix. But on the screen, you're seeing the leading report put out today that Trump officials are using polygraph tests to flesh out even minor leaks per Reuters. Everything, there's moles in the administration. There is people that are trying to mess up Trump's agenda and expose so much internal documents. They were literally using polygraph tests to expose everybody, guys. And this is where, again, if we don't move forward, even with just happened a couple of days ago with South Africa and Trump coming out and being a boss and showing everybody what they're doing to white farmers out there. There are people that do not want to see Trump succeed, and they're going to lie, cheat, steal, do whatever to prevent that. Listen to this.
And our same dishonest media told the world that what we saw happen at the White House yesterday was an ambush. But what's interesting to me is how multiple news anchors, and I put big quotes around that because they're not real journalists, but multiple news anchors, all working at different liberal media outlets, all came up with the exact same way to describe what happened in the White House yesterday. Take a look.
We turn to the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader inside the Oval Office.
Nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush that President Trump laid out.
Why did they choose to ambush the South African president?
It's pretty unbelievable. Ambush. In ambush. It was an ambush. Yeah, it was a total ambush. So just a few things about that alleged ambush. The first, have you ever noticed that no matter who is sitting next to Donald Trump in the Oval Office, the media instinctively takes the other guy's side instead of the president's, instead of the American president's side? Look, I get the media has to call truth to power, but they never do that, okay? It doesn't matter who it is. The media are always on the other guy's side every single time. Zelensky, South Africa, doesn't matter. And now this is an ambush. But let me ask, how is it an ambush when the president of South Africa was invited to the White House? He was invited. How's it an ambush when the president of South Africa flew across an ocean to get to America? How is it an ambush when the genocide happening in South Africa was on the agenda before the meeting? That's not...
Guys, and again, too, it's so deep. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, thank you so much, Lay Lewis, for gifting 10 True Life News memberships. Guys, y'all show Lay Lewis some love in the chat. I want you to see this here, guys, because this is the worst news that we could probably have ever gotten with what is happening, with all the news that's coming out today, with Elon Musk, with all the squandering that's been happening. Guys, look at this. Republicans' once-in-a-generation opportunity to fix Washington has been lost with Elon Musk. He came in, he was working to codify the Doge cuts, make sure that we catch all the fraud, waste, and abuse, and guess what? Elon Musk is now pulling back his political spending, saying he is done enough, making it clear that he does not need to see that he's not going to bring any more money to the Republicans. The Republicans did not pass one single Doge cut in the big, beautiful bill. And now he's coming out and has officially said, I'm pulling back, guys. This is about as sad as it gets when it comes to the dang waste that we see with the Republican Party. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the presidency, and they're not doing anything. Said Elon Musk made it pretty clear that he won't be opening up his wallet for the Republicans in the midterms. Too bad Congress couldn't get its act together and power Doge. Such a waste. Guys, this is from one of the most reputable outlets out there. And now that we're seeing this, let me know your thoughts in the comments, because again, Trump is trying to fix everything. Elon Musk came in to help, and the dumb Congress Republicans couldn't do one thing right. They had one job. Just get Elon Musk's Doge cuts in place, and he would continue to help out the Republicans, and now they didn't do it, and he's pulling back.
An ambush. That's the opposite. Isn't it interesting? An ambush. An ambush is when one party shows up uninvited or unexpected. That's not what we saw yesterday at the White House. This gentleman was invited, he was expected. But by calling it an ambush, the rest of the media don't have to cover the truth, and there it is. By covering the ambush, white news anchors don't have to cover the murder and genocide of innocent white farmers in South Africa. Something the media still claim today is not happening. But for proof that it is happening, we had the U.S. ambassador to South Africa on Finnerty last night. And in very clear terms, I asked her if white farmers are in fact being murdered in South Africa, and this is how she responded. Madam Ambassador, yes or no, and I just asked because I promised the audience, yes or no, are white South African farmers being slaughtered in South Africa at this time?
Yes.
Well, there it is right there.
Wow.
And the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump could not be more clear right now. Joe Biden hosted that very same man yesterday, the president of South Africa, in that very same room. It was 3 years ago, and the exchange was quite a bit different from what we saw yesterday. Nothing.
Guys, and I want to show you the importance of this. Elon Musk actually attended this meeting. Elon Musk is from South Africa. He is an immigrant to the United States, and everything that he's experienced and everything that he knows is firsthand. And in the room, they said it was bad. He kept staring down the president of South Africa, and Trump called him out because he's cool, he's friends with Elon Musk. But what everybody keeps lying on is they will not bring forth the truth
about the genocide happening in South Africa.
We've ended up with two great democracies and a lot to do, and you've become, you personally and your country, are such a critical part of what happened to the continent of 100 million people.
This is very bad. These are
burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers.
Yeah, what you're seeing there is the contrast between vegetable and actual president. Donald Trump, a real president, doing what is in America's best interest and the best interests of people all over the world, trying to end wars, standing up for white people in South Africa. And just when we think that maybe Democrats are on the verge of turning this all around, getting their act together, we see things like this. According to a new poll, the Democratic Party is now being led by a 35-year-old Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 26% of registered Democrats say that she is the face of the party. 26% of Democrats are so mad at their own party that they would rather have a woman who does not have a single legislative accomplishment to her name in charge instead of anyone else representing their party, a party that is lost, a party that hasn't held an honest presidential primary since 2012. Think about that. In 2016, they stole it from Bernie Sanders.
Yep,
in 2020, Jim
front-runner.
Clyburn and Joe Biden stole it from everybody else and then used COVID to campaign from the basement. And in 2024, the party just anointed Kamala Harris. They didn't even hold a primary.
Nope.
What do Bernie Sanders, Dean Phillips, and RFK all have in common? They were all robbed by their own party, the Democratic Party.
Guys, and again, it just begins there because what you're seeing now is that Donald Trump's approval rating increasing with the Democrats. A new poll has come out showing that Trump is winning across the board. His policies to put America first are not only helping businesses, they're not only helping the average American, they're putting, with this big, beautiful bill, trust me, I love it, they're putting over $1,000 per month in the pocket of average Americans. Guys, this is huge. I'll show you the receipt in a moment. But what I love too is that as we continue to dig in, we're seeing success. But at the same time too, you know who is standing in the way? It is our own Republican Congress. Guys, listen to this because it gets so much deeper that we cannot get anything out of the Congress of Republicans to actually do what? Cut the fraud, waste, and abuse. It's still there. Listen to this.
About spending, the bond market, I think the 10-year Treasury finished over 4.5. The 30-year, I think, is over 5. The market's a little choppy today. Bottom line is the big, beautiful bill goes to the Senate. Now, Semaphore is reporting that, hey, the basic structure of the bill is not going to change. There'll be some things on the margin. But Thune has essentially got his marching orders, and he will work and push this thing through. The goal is to have, I think, a Senate vote by July 4th.
Yep.
Some people are saying, hey, they want to get it back to the House, have a conference, have that all done by July 4th. I don't think that's going to happen. But there's other individual senators. You got Ron Johnson, many others, Rand Paul, of course, talk about there's got to be much more substantial cuts. Josh Hawley and even Murkowski now are talking about rural hospitals. There's big problems with Medicaid. So there's a lot of issues. I think everybody's out of town this weekend, but I know there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And Scott Bessent, as Secretary of the Treasury today, was saying, hey, we'll work with the Senate. We have a model and a program to work with them. I think the White House, the administration is going a lot more on offense. This is why I think it was so important today for the president early in the morning. And I don't believe this is a coincidence that the president said, hey, I'm not happy with the progress with the deals in the G7. You notice he didn't say he wasn't happy with the progress on the deals with Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, and India, of which Scott Bessent alluded that these things are pretty far along. He said he didn't appreciate the G7, and it didn't look like a lot of progress. So June 1st is going to be a 50% tariff on everything coming from the EU. I will tell you, I think this is also to reiterate one of the things that the calculation is not taking into account now that is not scored by the Congressional Budget Office. And everybody's going off the Congressional Budget Office numbers, particularly these very large deficits in the first couple of years. They're not taking in cash flow coming from tariffs that, Peter Navarro and others are saying it's $6 trillion over 10 years. So that would equate to, I don't know, $500 or $600 billion a year annually. Minimum people are talking about $300 billion in tariffs not being calculated. I think the White House is getting much more aggressive in talking about their model and the growth rates. And this is why we had Dave Walsh on this morning about how energy underpins President Trump's economy, his economic model, just like in the first term, where he brought down energy costs and full spectrum energy dominance. And that drove the economy after the tax cuts into 18 and 19. And remember, 19, by the second half of the year before the pandemic, the COVID virus was released by the Chinese Communist Party, growth, I think, in the fourth quarter was 3.5%. And he did that, as I keep reiterating, with the Federal Reserve really taking $1 trillion of liquidity off their balance sheet and giving much more headwinds to the economy at the time. He had no inflation. He had basically low interest rates.
Guys, and again, too, Trump is not stopping there. You think that, I'm telling you guys, Elon Musk came out and said the Doge team has done incredible work, but the magnitude of the savings is proportionate to the support we get from Congress and from the executive branch of the government in general. And right now, guys, Elon Musk has literally pulled back 100% from the Republican Party. He has literally said he's not even going to be involved in the midterms. He's not giving any money, and he's done with them because they couldn't codify not one of his Doge cuts within Congress. And again, just on what Bannon was talking about with the energy sector, Trump came out today and signed executive orders for big nuclear executive orders. One, to scale back regulations on nuclear energy, to quadruple the U.S. nuclear power over the next 2.5 decades, a pilot program for 3 new experimental reactors by July 4th of next year, and to invoke the Defense Production Act to secure nuclear fuel supply in USA. Why? Because we know that energy is the future, and that's what we lack the most in our country. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support. Want to get some love to some super chats? Lay Lewis, what's new? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott Charles, for the super chat, and Lay Lewis for gifting another 10 TrueLife News memberships. Guys, if you got a membership from Lay, show her some love in the chat, as well as the other people, guys. Trump is doing everything that he can to put America first, but what it sucks is that we continue to see that Congress is so slow to actually catch the fraud, waste, and abuse, and now we're having to dig more deep into what I'm going to show you next, guys, because it is so bad on the Republicans.
It was a perfect arrangement, the virtuous circle, as we say. Today, Scott Bessent, TV all day long, talking about the tariffs, talking about what's going on. And I think right now, people have to say, hey, going to Memorial Day weekend, these deficits look big. The deficit this year is going to be $2 trillion, we said, but that's because they accepted the Biden budget and did the Biden CR. The deficit next year looks to me over $2 trillion. However, they're saying you got to calculate in at least $300 billion in tariffs, and you also have to start calculating in the additional tax revenue that are coming from just the bigger growth. That is the denominator that with the tax structure we'll have post-deal that'll generate substantial additional revenues. This doesn't include, we had Orrin Cass on this morning. I thought Orrin made a pretty compelling argument, as we have, and just looking at the math, particularly if you add in, and Orrin was very, very sensitive about this, and he's an economic populist, adding in the full cut on no taxes on Social Security, which doesn't exist right now. It's kind of a...
Right there, guys. That's such a huge one.
I think of up to a couple of $1,000. I don't know what this, I think somebody told me for the average individual, that'll be a decrease in $500 in their taxes. Is really people are looking for no tax on Social Security as a third leg of the stool after no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. But Orrin is in agreement with the war room, is that we just don't see how the math works unless in the Senate there's going to be a tax increase. And I will tell you, we'll get much more on top of this as people get back to work next week on this bill and push it through. But I think the math could be incredibly positive, right? With deficit control, with additional tariffs, with additional growth that is justified by lower energy prices, other things they're doing, what Scott just said right there, non-tariff barriers, which is kind of the friction that goes on, particularly in EU and in places like Japan and Korea. You want to know why there's no Chevrolets or Fords on the road over there? That's the reason. So you take the friction off there, you can have really explosive growth. Also, what President Trump's done in protecting the auto industry and other industries. So
and guys, again, too, like all this stuff keeps popping up, and I'm going to show you all the breaking news because, again, too, Ed Martin, who is the U.S. pardon attorney, has already come out and said that prison time is coming for these people that have frauded the United States. Guys, look at this. GOP has now sent off for these cabinet members have been asked to now to be interviewed. They've been subpoenaed to be interviewed on Biden's health. We've got Kamala Harris. We've got Pete Buttigieg. We've got Alejandro Mayorkas. We've got Merrick Garland, Anthony Blinken, and Janet Yellen, all who have been asked now to interview over what happened in the last administration. You think there's not going to be jail time, guys? Ed Martin says one of these or multiple of them are going to prison. We know they covered it up. We know they were in on it. And now as we continue to see that, wow, there really was a huge scandal that was happening right before our eyes that the left-wing media tried to cover up. And I'm so thankful because we're finally exposing all this corruption.
And that we can, the president as commander-in-chief can do mass deportations of 13 million, according to Mark Green, the congressman is in charge of the House Homeland Security. He says 13 million here. You got the courts trying to stop that. Of course, you've got all these judges throwing down more bizarre rulings every day. But the White House and the Justice Department, the White House counsel's office are grinding through them. We've got a packed show today. Joe Allen, Joe Allen's going to come in the next block. Joe Allen is my co-host. He's actually in the House at the war. We got a couple of amazing interviews. We're going to talk artificial intelligence. Liz George is going to join us. Mo Bannon is up either at West Point or near West Point. She's going to jump in here. In the second hour, we're going to at least focus a lot on Texas, on what's going on this situation in the Texas House, Texas Senate, to pass these bills that really protect the sovereignty of the state of Texas, particularly this bill.
Guys, and again, too, what's so important about Texas, guys, is that they are the border state to the biggest invasion that happened over the past 4 years. What you're about to see next is that now we finally have it, guys, that the big Supreme Court decision that just happened by the Supreme Court, where we are escalating to the highest level, the exposure of the fraud cover-up over what happened. People are going to jail. Listen to this, because not only our top key aides have been subpoenaed to go before Congress, but now, I just showed you guys, it was just a moment ago, now we have these officials, cabinet members, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Alejandro Mayorkas, Merrick Garland, Anthony Blinken, and Janet Yellen have all been called in to be interviewed on what happened with Biden, the decline, the invasion, who was calling the shots, who left the border open, and we're finally going to see justice for America with this. Check this out.
Meantime, investigations into President Biden's health during his time in office are ramping up. Congressional Republicans now turning to Biden's inner circle for answers.
Big.
The House Oversight Committee now calling on the former president's doctor, along with 4 of his top aides, to appear before that panel voluntarily, otherwise face a subpoena.
Right there, guys, you got the former White House physician, the deputy White House chief of staff, deputy assistant to the president, senior advisor to the president, and chief of staff to First Lady Jill Biden. Everybody's being called. And they know, guys, it may not be all of them that's going to prison, but at least 1 or 2 of them who are going to be the brains behind everything over what happened, how so much fraud, how the president of the United States was hijacked for 4 years in the United States of America. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
The unelected bureaucrats that we believe had an overwhelming influence over Joe Biden and could have possibly been serving as de facto presidents of the United States. The first step to issue a successful subpoena is to offer someone an invitation, a sincere request to come in and answer questions. If they do not, the next step will be the subpoenas.
Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel live with more on this for us. Good morning, Mike.
Jackie, good morning. In his letter to Dr. Kevin O'Connor, physician to President Biden, Oversight Chairman James Comer asks if the doctor contributed to an effort to hide former President Biden's fitness to serve. Comer writes, quote, in light of mounting evidence that confirms the committee's initial observation that President Biden was significantly unwell while serving in office, the committee seeks information to ensure accurate information was provided to the American people, and your health reports were not subject to any improper influence. Now Republicans are asking who was running the country. Comer expressing this concern.
Wow.
During the end of the Biden administration, that our sources were telling us that Hunter Biden was spending more time in the Oval Office than Joe Biden. I said on some shows that Hunter Biden was essentially the de facto chief of staff.
On the Senate side, Ron Johnson has sent letters to 28 top Biden administration officials requesting voluntary interviews to members of the...
Guys, I told you guys, look at this. 28 people are now being interviewed over what the heck happened during the Biden administration. We are about to see the actual exposure of all the fraud, the waste, the abuse, everything that happened, the invasion of over 20 million people into our country, the foreign policy, all the stopping of the drilling, all the money to USAID, the $93 billion that was sent out within 76 days right before Biden left office. Everybody's about to answer for all the fraud, waste, and abuse. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, this is huge.
Biden cabinet, like Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and Biden White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, suggesting they should have spoken up.
If you have a infirmed and incapable president of the United States, they need to step up the plate and let the American people know that so that we can actually be governed by somebody who's competent.
Johnson notes the concerns raised by former Biden officials in recent books are quite contrary to public statements they made portraying the former president as healthy and mentally sharp. Jackie?
All right, Mike Emanuel, thank you.
So I want to bring in Shannon Bream, talk about this and a host of other things. How you doing, Shannon? Anchor of Fox News Sunday and Memorial Weekend. Hello, blessed Memorial Weekend to you. I thought what Mike said there was very interesting. These are voluntary interviews. Do you think much comes of this in the end?
Well, for now, they're voluntary. As you guys know,
Right
having
there,
covered
guys.
DC for a long time in these hearings, I mean, these folks were already part of a hearing, many of them, or an investigation that had launched last year in the House. And so they didn't comply. They didn't come voluntarily, but that's where they're starting with the committee. I think it's a good first step to say, all right, we want to know what you know. But I don't think that means ruling out the fact that they may issue subpoenas at some point. So, yeah, maybe this is a friendly overture that the committee doesn't really expect to go anywhere, but they do have subpoena power if they need to use it.
So, Shannon, it looks like sort of the goal that Comer has is, in the end, to figure out who was in charge of the auto pen and throw out whatever orders or maybe, legislation even the president put his signature on. Or didn't, and see where that goes. Is that likely to succeed, that effort?
I think that's a really heavy lift, but I think you're right. That's part of where they want to go. All of those pardons that were signed and all of those last minute things that were done sort of en masse with this auto pen. Is there anything there that could be undone? We've heard the president talk about this quite a bit on social media, and he has, talked about it in various press conferences too. Jackie, you've been there, so I'll be interested to see where they go with that. But I will tell you this. I thought it was interesting in the book that's out, Original Sin, and we're going to have Alex Thompson on with us on Sunday to talk about this and dig into it. He specifically mentions Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who now is in the news because of this cancer diagnosis that's gone public. And he talks about Dr. O'Connor being maybe too close to the president to be objective about his health, mentally and physically. So I think that Dr. O'Connor is going to be one of the top folks that they want to get under questioning.
Okay.
Guys, and again, too, I want to show you this because this is about as big of news as you could ever get when it comes to the exposure of fraud, waste, and abuse and corruption, guys. Look at this. Trump officials are using polygraph tests. Guys, these are the tests that are used to tell if you are lying or not, to flush out even minor leaks per Reuters. This came out today, guys, and this is not getting as much exposure, but this is the very telling thing that we have moles. We have a lot of people that are trying to expose the inside of Trump's plans, but also, too, trying to leak documents before they're supposed to be shown to the public, or to leak documents to try to disrupt or mess up them trying to catch the bad guys. Guys, this is huge. Let me know your thoughts on this, because these officials that you're now seeing, that you've seen on the screen, you can now know that there's nothing that they won't do to try to cover up and protect their butts from being caught with all the fraudulent, wasteful spending and the corruption that they've been doing.
Other topic here. I don't know if the Supreme Court's worked this hard in the month of May. Right? I mean, maybe they have behind closed doors.
It is just nonstop.
So late yesterday, we got another decision. They went ahead and agreed with President Trump having the authority to terminate 2 appointees on behalf of President Joe Biden. And the reaction I was picking up online when this decision came across is that they were surprised that they allowed this to happen. It was an overwhelming vote. What did you make of it? What do you think it means?
It is a temporary win, but a big win for the Trump White House. And essentially what they said is these people can be fired. You can keep them out of these positions on these 2 federal boards, independent boards, while the case is proceeding. But the court was also very clear in noting we're not getting to the merits of this, of whether these firings are 100% going to hold, but we're allowing you to do them in the interim, because they said really there's more harm to the government if the executive is forced to employ people that they don't feel like is carrying out the executive branch wishes than there is to telling somebody they can't have the job for now. So it's a temporary win, but also notable that the court specifically mentioned the Federal Reserve, because there'd been an attempt by these plaintiffs to say, well, hey, if you let us get fired, then maybe that means that the president's door is open to firing Jerome Powell. The court was, very clear in an extra line or 2 in the decision yesterday to say we review the Federal Reserve as something completely different than these 2 boards.
Yeah, what this means for Jerome Powell is really the subtext to all of this. You got a big show coming up on Sunday.
Guys, again, right here, you're getting to see. I'm showing you everything that's breaking today. Chief Justice John Roberts has issued a temporary administrative stay, halting lower court's orders that required the DOJ team to comply with FOIA requests and related discovery. The DOJ team have found fraud, waste, and abuse. The DOJ team have found money trails back to officials and congresspeople, Biden officials, all these things. And we have leftist judges that are trying to come in, see the evidence, and control it to try to deter it from being exposed, trying to make deals, guys. And I'm so glad that Chief Justice Roberts saw this and issued this temporary administrative stay to say, look, you're not getting access, you can't see it, because we need to let the DOJ get involved first, because if not, we're never going to expose the people that have been behind all this. And it gets even worse, guys, with what you're about to see next, because the Director of National Intelligence is just laying it all out there of how much has been happening over the past 4 years. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Check this out.
For being with us here today. It's great to see you as always.
Thanks, Will. Likewise.
I do wonder exactly what's been done here, or what was done under the Biden administration. Was it they were saying that everyone who opposed, say, mask mandates or the vaccination of children are domestic violent extremists? Or were they saying that those are opinions often held by domestic violent extremists?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. That when you look at the language of these documents that I've declassified, first, the strategic implementation plan of the Biden administration's designation of potential violent domestic extremists, it really talks about people who may likely turn out to be domestic violent extremists, or those who may likely turn to violence because of these specific quote unquote ideologies that they hold. And there's a consistent thread through here that these ideologies that they are designating as turning into potentially violent activities or being manifested in violent activities happen to be those of people who were using their First Amendment rights to oppose certain policies of the Biden administration. And while some of the examples that are focused on there have to do with those who opposed the COVID vaccine mandates, those who opposed the mask mandates, parents who were concerned that their children going to school may be forcibly vaccinated with the COVID vaccine without the consent or awareness of parents. The list goes on, but it's not exclusive to this. In some of these reports that we've declassified, it shows that people who were opposed to Biden's border policy, for example, could therefore have propensities to join a militia or could become these domestic violent extremists that we're talking about here. And again, it's important to look at this in the totality and the sequence of how this happened. These documents were issued in December of 2021. You remember very well, Will, the speech, the ominous speech that President Biden gave in 2022, where with this red background and Marines standing in the background, he issued an address to the nation warning the American people that Donald J. Trump and MAGA Republicans pose a direct threat to the fabric of our republic. And then you put that together with how the FBI and others within the Biden administration directed social media companies to censor Americans and undermine our First Amendment rights because, of course, the social media companies don't want to be in a position to support the spread of domestic violent extremism.
And guys, what she's explaining here is that they have now found evidence that in 2021, the Biden administration started to label multiple people across the entire United States as extremists, violent extremists. And what they were planning to do, guys, this is why it was so important that Trump won, is that they were going to start taking away their flight plans. You couldn't fly an airplane. They were going to be labeled on their driver's license a certain way because they were going to be considered extremists that could commit violence. Guys, this is how close we were to living in this type of United States if Donald Trump didn't win. If you appreciate this, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
You look at all of these things together, you understand at its core the thing that I committed to the American people to root out, which is the weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community and national security state against the American people.
You know, Director, it's a little bit like that analogy or the test that I had to take when I took the law school entrance exam. And it's one of whether or not you can pass basic logic. It is all baseball players wear hats, but do all people that wear hats play baseball? What it seems like was done here is you take domestic violent extremists in this document, they suggest often hold these opinions, but then they created degrees as what you just laid out that if you hold those opinions, therefore you might be on the path to domestic violent extremism. So if somebody's watching at home and you went onto social media and you said, I don't believe in mask mandates, it's not necessarily that the Biden administration said, therefore you are an extremist, but it placed you, it appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, on some sort of continuum where you would be perhaps monitored on social media and characterized publicly like you just described from the President of the United States.
That's exactly the point, and this is where some former FBI agents have actually come out who were serving in the FBI during this period of time and it pointed out exactly that fact, that this line of continuum that they have created here that places a level of suspicion on people. Ultimately, again, the through line here are people who oppose President Biden administration's policies should be seen with some form of suspicion as a potential domestic terror threat. You've talked a lot about, you spoke with Senator Rand Paul about the Quiet Skies program, the secret domestic terror watch list program, something that the Biden administration placed me on the very day after I spoke out against Vice President Kamala Harris's policies and warned about the potential of the threat that she would pose if she were elected and served as commander-in-chief. So there are many different examples here that go towards exactly what you're talking about, that by laying this groundwork, they are then giving excuse and license to the FBI and other federal agencies to then surveil or carefully watch Americans who oppose the Biden administration's policies.
Guys, and again, too, I'm showing you the full context of what is actually going on, what Trump is doing, because everything that you're seeing now, they're trying to find everybody that was involved, everybody that had something to do with censoring people, spending wasteful spending, lying to the public. The Biden declined. So check this out. The Trump administration is using polygraphs to crack down on leaks, even minor ones. Federal employees face lie detector tests and potential discipline as the administration intensifies efforts to prevent unauthorized disclosures. They are not playing around. What you just heard from our director of national intelligence is that the Biden administration, the government was literally putting people into a bucket that they were going to be monitoring, censoring. This is so asinine to see that our federal government of the United States, the freest country in the world, was actually doing this. And now that Trump and all of them are starting to figure this out, they're trying to make sure things are kept hidden until they need to be revealed in court to hold these people accountable. That now they're doing polygraph tests on them every single week. Guys, this is crazy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Continuing on that path together, you did mention that interview with Senator Rand Paul. I wanted to play that for the audience where we talk about why you were placed on the quiet skies list. And he said something in that conversation, Director, that was fascinating. He said, there are others. And he also suggested there might be others who were visited at home. Watch this.
I do believe Tulsi Gabbard was selected for constitutionally protected speech and for her positions. And I want to see the deliberation. I have not yet seen the deliberation of who made the decision, who argued, and why the heck a former congresswoman who is now at the highest echelon of our government was put on a terrorist watch list. It's inexcusable, and I don't want to let it happen to an ordinary citizen, much less somebody who's in our government.
And as I mentioned, Director, he did go on to say he thinks there's a long list of others, including yourself, that were placed on these lists, perhaps other members of Congress.
Yes, I have heard from other members of Congress who themselves have said that while serving in Congress, they were placed on this list, and even after notifying TSA, remained on this list for a period of time. I think it's important to note that the TSA, the Federal Air Marshal Director that's been charged with administering this Quiet Skies program is continuing to justify the fact that I was put on this domestic terror watch list. But they have no answer for the fact that there were other high-level Americans who went and participated in the meetings that I did in Rome at the Vatican, at which time I was placed on this list. I called them immediately and I said, hey, I'm going through all of this additional screening, surveillance. This is really weird. Did you have to go through that? And every one of them said, no, we were not. And the key difference there is the night before traveling, they were not on Fox News criticizing then Vice President Kamala Harris.
Guys, again, with what I'm showing you, every single one of these pieces that is coming out now, more than ever, guys, we are exposing what has been happening, why the Democrats pulled in 20+ million illegal immigrants into the country is because of things like this. And it's so sick and disgusting because I know that there's seniors out there that really need help. But look at this. Colombian woman charged with illegal voting in 2024 election, stealing $400,000 in taxpayer-funded benefits. Now, you cannot tell me that there isn't this happening on a larger scale. You can't tell me, you have to be naive to think that the Democrats weren't bringing people over to try to turn them into voters or have them even voting illegally just like this in the presidential election and swaying how our country was being moved. And now that we have pit bulls that are finally standing up to all these people, what you're about to hear next, because it's literally been a con job on the American taxpayer, the deep state has, but now we are finally exposing them. Listen to this.
You just saw EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Lee, good to see you. Boy, it's kind of hard to answer a question when you get a tirade of insults thrown at you like that. But just to clear the record, you were not suggesting that taking lead out of water is a waste of money, were you?
Taking lead out of water and more is important as part of the core mission of EPA. It's statutory obligations that we fulfill every single day, and we do it proudly.
And I'm just curious, what do you make of this new style? It's not only you, other members of the Trump administration are giving back as hard as they're getting. What do you make of this new style of congressional hearings?
Well, I'm sitting in front of Senators Whitehouse, Markey, Schiff. These people have been advancing what is a con job on the American taxpayer. This green slush fund, tens of billions of dollars, where they're giving out money through self-dealing and conflicts of interest to unqualified recipients and reducing agency oversight. We're going to call it out. We're going to stop it. So the $20 billion, I'm not before Congress to put anyone on warning that I might take action on it. It's all terminated, all of it. And we will fight this out on behalf of the American taxpayer. We're not going to sit there before Congress and allow them to gaslight, to advance these con jobs, and to be left unaccountable. We will be that voice on behalf of the American public. It's a key part of the Trump mandate.
So what actually happened to that money? This 20, you referred to it as throwing gold bars off the Titanic. I mean, this is right in the, just for those who've forgotten, after the election, that period before Trump was inaugurated as president, they were just throwing money out there as quickly as they can, billions and billions of dollars, putting it into a special account that was going to be drawn out of. What happened to that account? What happened to that banking account where a lot of this money was ended up?
Right now, this money is frozen. There's litigation. The grants are terminated. We're now in a closeout process. And what happened at the end of the Biden administration is that they put $20 billion at this outside bank to give to 8 pass-through entities. Some were brand new. Right. And that money was going to go to other pass-through entities, and there was all sorts of waste and abuse built into the design of it. So President Trump gets elected. We see it was actually a Biden EPA official who observed, caught on camera, that they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic.
Oh, that's
President
right.
Trump gets sworn in, and it is a directive from President Trump to make sure we're getting to the bottom of it, and we're fulfilling a promise to the American people. We're doing it proudly.
But there are some courts that are objecting to this and that are holding you back from actually delivering the money back to the Treasury.
What?
A DC District Court judge issued a ruling, just like so many other district court judges across the country have issued rulings to try to prevent President Trump and this administration from being able to do the job that the American public elected them to do. But then there's an appeals process. Yes. And the Supreme Court has already weighed in on different cases. Now, this is a case that the plaintiffs are essentially alleging a breach of contract. That should be litigated inside of the Court of Federal Claims. That D.C. District Court judge didn't even have jurisdiction, but that didn't stop the District Court judge from trying.
All right. Meanwhile, a lot of members of Congress were upset. They don't want to claw back, any kind of clawback from the Green New Deal. EPA
Guys, what you're about to hear is what is made Elon Musk literally step back from the Republican Party. He's literally said he's not going to be involved with the midterms. He's not going to be putting any more money, is what you're about to hear next. Not one dang Doge cut was codified in the big, beautiful bill. And not only that, guys, they couldn't pass one thing to cut the fraud, waste, and abuse that Elon Musk and his Doge team have been working night and day to try and bring back to the American people. They didn't even stop this right here that was revealed, guys, just a couple of days ago, that in a 76-day period time, the President Biden, who was leaving office, gave $93 billion in all types of loans, to banks, to all types of things in 73 and 76 days. This is over twice as much that has been given in the previous 15 years. And this is what Elon Musk saw. He saw all of this, and we heard this in testimony in Congress. And yet not one of the Republicans pulled anything back. This is the fraud, this is the waste, the abuse that Doge was trying to go after to try to save for the American taxpayer, and the dang Republicans couldn't do one dang thing. And that's why Elon Musk has officially stepped back from the Republican Party. No more money. He said, I'm done with it. I don't need to be involved anymore. Listen to this.
Itself is directly involved, as you were mentioning that one case. Are there other parts of the Green New Deal in general that EPA was a part of that you can now claw back money from, money which hasn't been spent?
Yes. On top of the $20 billion of grants that I've canceled, I've also canceled $2 billion, which was comprised of many hundreds of grants through 4 rounds of cuts, working with people connected to DOJ, but they were agency employees for EPA, to get to the bottom of these different grants where money should be spent more effectively. We did it proudly. We're doing this on behalf of the American public. The Green New Deal is one of the issues where, in the name of climate change, there's a willingness to bankrupt this country. They'll say 6 years ago, AOC will say that we're 12 years away from the end of the planet. We're halfway through that timeline. That's not going to happen. In the name of environmental justice, instead of spending $1 on remediating an environmental issue, they'll spend $1 on a left-wing advocacy group to tell us the next $1 should get spent on remediating the environmental issue.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I want to bring out a positive element. Larry's talked about this week. Liberation Day for gas-powered cars. Getting rid of the Wall Street Journal actually wrote a pretty good editorial today about the Senate voting. The House had voted before to end California's EV quota, which was being applied all over the United States. This is huge news. Just to get it on the record, do you approve of what has been done? And
guys, and if you don't know what he's talking about, this was going to be the first thing of many coming from the Biden administration, but it was starting first in California, that by 2035, you would not be able to buy any more gas vehicles in the state of California. That's what they're talking about. And now that is being repealed. All this stuff was coming, guys, with the Democratic Party, with the progressives. If Trump and them did not step in at the very right time to put America first, to put people first, and not try to live some crazy climate agenda, this is what we would be living under.
do you think that the president is going to sign this and that it will become the law of the land?
This is fantastic news. The Senate passed these 3 Congressional Review Act bills that were previously House passed. Now goes to the president for his signature. We are ending California's electric vehicle mandate, which so many other states signed up for. If you want to go purchase an electric vehicle, go purchase an electric vehicle. But if your neighbor wants to purchase a gas-powered vehicle, they should be able to go out and purchase a gas-powered vehicle. We should have one standard for the whole country. We should promote consumer choice. We should have costs that go down. We should be smart in applying common sense. That's exactly what Congress did with this action, passing these 3 Congressional Review Acts. And on top of it, when you pass a Congressional Review Act, if the pendulum swings and a presidential election goes a different way, you can't do something substantially similar in the future. So they didn't just get rid of this Biden EPA waiver for California for today. They can't do this 5-10 years down the road either.
Let's go, guys. This is and I got to show you this, because if we're not catching the fraud, waste, and abuse, if we're not exposing everything, and this is one of the biggest, boldest representatives in Congress right now with what you're about to see, let me know your thoughts in the comments.
How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
Well, we have a lot of our international...
Can you pull your mic up? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what we did...
Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
That they're lobbying against us. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman,
There's actually someone who used to work for one of those lobbies, the largest NGO lobby, Interaction. One of our co-witnesses here worked for them from 2018 to 2023. USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that overseas work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it. Do you think USAID programs have been aligned with the national security interests of the U.S.?
No, they have not. They have actually helped China.
Mr. Roman?
No.
Okay. How do these programs compromise our national security, Mr. Premier?
They actually push China. They actually push much of the world towards China on the green energy agenda. They push people, ordinary people, billions of people towards China because of the resentment caused by our social re-engineering.
Are we being lobbied by these pro-communist China groups currently?
Well, a lot of these countries don't even have to lobby because they get the money anyway, like South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, and in fact, these lobbyists have come to the House and have tried to kill legislation like H.R. 160, which was meant to increase transparency in USAID's funding of overseas organizations.
Is that a current piece of legislation?
That's from the last session.
And give me that number again.
H.R. 160.
And what does it do?
It was meant to give U.S. lawmakers the ability to have higher transparency in terror financing investigations aimed at scrutinizing extremist groups.
Mr. Premier?
We had a regulation before we left in the last administration that anybody who touches money in countries where there's terrorists, those names have to go through databases, terrorist databases. That was overturned by Biden.
Overturned by Biden.
Wow. So instead of vetting them and making sure the people that we're giving money to are not terrorists or nothing, Biden pulled back the curtains. Guys, this is insane. The big news, bombshell news that has happened today. Want to say, if you don't mind doing us a huge favor of hitting that thumbs up like button. I want to say thank you to everybody who is watching, to all of our viewers, all of our subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button, joining our True Life News family here. We want to serve you every day with the top news, guys. So much is going on. We're living through history, and we want to bring you the truth every single day. That's my job, to bust my butt and make sure that you're informed and you see everything. So much is going on right now, so much propaganda, but we filter through everything and we make sure that you are completely informed with the truth. Doesn't matter where it comes from, we're going to bring you the truth. Want to give some love to those that have donated today, because remember, when you give a super chat or you're a member of the channel on the 22nd of every single month, this guy right here donates to a local charity. This past month, we donated over $3,000 to a local children's home, and I'm so thankful for all your support, guys, and I want to give some love to those that have donated tonight. P. Kaboo, thank you so much. Lay Lewis, thank you so much for gifting 20 True Life News memberships. Fred Samuel, Chip Trap, Lay Lewis, What's New, Scott Charles. Thank you so much, Scott Charles, for gifting 5 True Life News memberships. Kay Allen, welcome to the family. Guys, please show them some love in the chat. If you got a free membership, please show your gratitude towards them. With that, we thank you so much, everybody who is watching. We love you very much, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.